Neurodegenerative disorders. What are those? Hi everyone. Greetings from European Wellness Biomedical Group and its educational division, European Wellness Academy. And the topic of our today's conversation is cell therapy in treatment of neurodegenerative disorders and autism. Neurodegenerative disorders, what are those? It is a diverse and heterogeneous group of neurological disorders that involve the progressive loss of neurons in the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system as well. It is associated with the collapse of the structure and function of neuronal network and loss of neurons which are unable to efficiently renew themselves and which results in the breakdown of the fundamental communicative circuitry and leads to the impairment of memory, cognition, behavior, sensory and motor function. The list of neurodegenerative disorders that is on this slide is far not complete. Includes but not limited to Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, frontotemporal dementia, ALS, variety of dementias, multi-system atrophy, Huntington disease, stroke, various disorders and injuries of the spinal cord, multiple sclerosis, and in the context of this presentation, the autism spectrum disorders as well. The latter shares many commonalities with the neurodegenerative disorders of the adult age. The topic of etiology, pathogenesis mechanisms of its development and progression, and the hallmarks of the neurodegenerative diseases requires a separate lecture or even a series of lectures on its own. In the format of the current presentation, I will only list them down without elaborating them. So we have pathological protein aggregation, synaptic and neuronal network dysfunction, aberrant proteostasis, cytoskeletal abnormalities, altered energy metabolism, DNA and RNA defects, inflammation, and accelerated neuronal cell death. These are the 8 hallmarks of neurodegenerative disorders. Now, let's look at the hallmarks of aging and age-related chronic degenerative disorders that we quite successfully approach with stem cells and cell therapy. So we have disrupted metabolism and energy sensing, macromolecular damage, distorted epigenetics, chronic inflammation, impaired adaptation to stress, impaired proteostasis, exhausted stem cell pool, and impaired regeneration. It's practically the same. And that's why stem cells and cell therapy in general, which is arguably one of the best treatment options for chronic degenerative diseases of age, works so well for the neurodegenerative disorders too. If we look at the main signs of the autism spectrum disorders, we will identify 2 groups of subjective relativistic signs and symptoms associated with it. It's a persistent deficit in social communication and social interaction, and second, restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, and activities. Anatomically speaking, ASDs are involving the following structures: abnormalities in the frontal lobe, superior temporal cortex, parietal cortex, and amygdala mediate impairments in social behavior. Orbitofrontal cortex and caudate nucleus have been associated with restricted repetitive behavior. Inferior frontal gyrus and Broca's area, superior temporal sulcus, and Wernicke's area might be related to defects in social language processing and social attention. ASDs involve topical morphological and functional changes in all parts of the brain, starting from the most ancient brain structures such as cerebellum or the reptilian brain, amygdala, hippocampus, basal ganglia, and ended up with evolutionary newer structures such as cortex, the neocortex.